Welcome to my breakdown and prediction video for Mikey Garcia vs Jessie Vargas. This welterweight division fight is taking place on DAZN as their main event. This is the first time Mikey is fighting on DAZN, and for what we know it may be his last as well, as it's known that Mikey prefers to keep his options open like he says, and for that reason he signed a one-fight deal with DAZN. For those who don't know me, I'm regularly doing the breakdowns and predictions as well as recreating the moves and skills of the past and present boxers on the video. So if these are the things you are looking for, I'll appreciate you subscribing and hitting the like button. And you can find the link for the playlist of my other breakdowns and predictions for the other upcoming and past fights that I'm constantly updating and adding the new ones in the description, in the pinned comment and at the end of the video. The breakdown time. This is a matchup between two solid boxers and two natural counter-punchers as well. You can say Mikey Garcia has the better technical skills, but this is his second fight at welterweight division, and at least judging by the Errol Spence fight, it's clear that at this weight he's carrying too much of a body fat and is definitely looking slower at this weight. And is in against another welterweight who has the clear size advantage over him. Jessie Vargas is visibly taller and has the longer reach. The question is, could he use it effectively to his advantage? I'm going to list their tendencies one by one and see how they match up. We saw that Errol Spence rendered Mikey Garcia ineffective by using his footwork to control the distance between them. Jessie Vargas has the quicker feet than Mikey Garcia as well, I believe at least. But the question is, how much would he use them? Because he showed me he can make a good use of his feet, but at the same time I have the impression that he stays flat-footed for a long time. Vargas likes to make his opponent's jabs fall short by stepping back and countering them with his own jab, but I've never seen him doing it constantly during a round. Another thing that may be in his favor if he keeps on doing it a lot is countering his opponents by jumping out of range, and at the moment he lands the balls of his feet on the canvas, he either shoots the overhand right or the stiff jab. He also likes to set the traps for his jab counter or the left hook counter by stepping in with the jab upstairs while lowering his level in order to attract the counter hook or uppercut from his opponent, and then take a step back and throw the previously mentioned jab counter or the left hook counter. While he has some good offensive and counter-punching skills, his defense seems to have too many holes. For example, he doesn't do a good job of keeping the right glove on his chin. He notably pulls it back or drops it when he's looking to throw his own punches, especially his jab, so he's susceptible to the short left hand counters. I've seen him getting countered by a jab many times, and for the same reason he's also vulnerable to doubling the left hands and to the hooks of the jab as well. Sometimes he would become aware of that his right glove of his being low and he would pick it up, but just in spots. But then he would always revert to carrying it low. And even in those moments he picks it up, he would be conscious just enough to keep it up, just only during the times he just chooses to defend himself from his opponent, but not while he's countering them or attacking them, because he would still cock it back when jabbing or countering with the left hand. He's also susceptible to jabs when they're following the straight right punch. It means the simple 2-1 combination. The short looping rights or the lefts in the exchange in the pocket are also catching him, either when he's going to the body or because he's throwing his punches too wide upstairs. When he's counterpunching, he has the tendency of planting his feet and moving his head offline, which is a good thing, but it depends on how it's done, and he's doing it by placing his head low, with his eyes facing the canvas while throwing the looping counters upstairs. Manny Pacquiao, for example, was countering him countless times by making him bait his in and out movement and making Jessie Vargas try to counter him. So Pacquiao could counter Jessie Vargas's counters when he was completely off balance in the previously described manner, By stepping out of range while Jessie Vargas was planting his feet and putting his upper body completely out of balance with his face facing the canvas when throwing his looping counters. But can Mikey Garcia put him in the same position to bait in and counter Vargas's counters? Or can he employ some other tactic which would enable him to accomplish the same goal? Mikey's footwork is slower at this weight, and he never had an amazing footwork to begin with, although I must admit he has a very nice technical footwork. Take his 1-2s for example. He's always either stepping laterally, left or right, or he takes a step back, but he doesn't really stand at the same place right after throwing his right hand. I believe Mikey could try to feint him into that unbalanced position, similarly to what he was doing to Lipinets. In that fight it could be seen how good Mikey is at exploiting the opponent's habits, like Lipinets' habit of slipping and leaning over his right side, over his right foot, either when pressuring Mikey or when he was slipping his punches. It didn't take Mikey long enough before he started setting up and feinting Lipinets into that particular position, from which he started regularly catching him with the left hooks. So I expect Mikey pretty much to be clever enough to recognize the earlier mentioned Jessie Vargas' habits and feint him into that unbalanced position and land the left hook on him from there. Vargas can throw a very effective stiff jab when he's not following it with the overhand right, when he sticks to single or double or triple jabs without the other punches behind. He keeps a very nice form when he's throwing it by staying on balance and stepping in with his lead foot and keeping his head protected behind that same lead foot, lead arm and lead shoulder, but he leaves a lot of room for counters whenever he opens up. And most of the times he gets out that textbook form, either when he follows it with the overhand right or uses his jab as a feint or a rangefinder for the following overhand right instead of single stiff jabs. And I certainly get that his upper body movement can be very useful, but my problem is rather the way he's doing it. Because it can be useful, but not to the point of using the over-exaggerated movement and getting out of balance facing the canvas. Because that's how he got cut plenty of times, and that's exactly how Thomas Delorme was able to drop him down. Like I said, it's not necessarily a bad thing at all to move your head offline when punching. Quite the opposite. In fact, Jessie Vargas used it to his advantage many times, in particular when he was getting pressured with a big volume of punches in the pocket, which is very reminiscent of what Keith Thurman was doing against Sean Porter. And it was also of a good use to Jessie when he was countering the opponent's 1-2s by pairing the jab and countering the 2 with a distracting jab and moving his head offline during his own overhand right counters that follows it. But once more, my problem is that he could benefit immensely safety-wise from the shorter upper body movement in those situations. He's very susceptible to counter punches despite being a counter puncher himself, even gets countered with the right hand over his jabs because he doesn't bring it up. But Mikey Garcia himself is getting easily countered by his opponents when they are simultaneously slipping Mikey's jab or the left hook and are throwing a jab or the left hook on their own, as Mikey doesn't bring the left glove up neither after punching, although not to the same extent like Jessie Vargas, because Mikey Garcia does a way better job of pairing the jab with the right glove and keeps it close to his chin most of the times. As Mikey Garcia often circles to his left while jabbing, I would not be surprised if Jessie Vargas is able to move his head offline like he usually does and throw the wide looping right hand counters and catch him with some of them, perhaps a lot of them. It's not impossible. He may be looking to slip Mikey's chopping right hand and counter it with the earlier described punches. Anyways, it looks like both of them could exploit each other's holes in the defense when counterpunching. Before taking a further look into Mikey Garcia, despite Jessie's flaws I just described, it is going to be possible for him to do the same to Mikey, and in the case he chooses to tailor his game plan based on Mikey's deficiency by taking advantage of his physical size and the disparity in foot quickness when compared to this welterweight version of Mikey Garcia. but also doing something that is, I admit, out of his character, like staying fleet-footed for the duration of the fight and countering with the straight short punches while taking the back steps. In that case, I would not be shocked if he defies the odds. As I described earlier, Mikey Garcia may try to make Jessie overreach and counter him after using his lateral movement to place himself at a blind angle the moment Vargas gets out of balance. Mikey may also try to prevent Vargas from countering him by stepping into Vargas's range with a jab overhand right combo and then pressing his left glove or his right forearm onto Vargas's guard, which is something that Mikey regularly does and which guarantees him a safe way back out of pocket. Another thing that he does to his orthodox opponents are setting them up for the jab by feinting the right hand and making them open up or counter with their left hand, which opens the way for Mikey's stiff jab. On the contrary, what Mikey himself should pay attention to is when he's throwing his left hook. This is more so visible when he's the one initiating the action by hooking off his ones and twos, because in these instances, I've seen him telegraphing the left hook and throwing it very wide so many times and was getting countered with the short left hooks or short jab. The prediction time. First of all, I must admit that it was an extremely arrogant move from my side to include the betting in my videos. Not because I don't have any trust in my picks, in fact I do humbly think that I'm doing a fairly good job of A. breaking down and predicting fighter skills and styles and how would they match up, B. predicting the final outcome of the fight. But what I just started figuring out since reading thousands of articles on betting is that a lot of times us, the hardcore boxing fans, don't have any clue or the sustainable strategy to make money off predicting the fights, but I'll go deeper into that in my next video. Anyways, my point is, if we take this fight between Mikey Garcia and Jessie Vargas as an example, I'm predicting Mikey Garcia to win most likely by a decision, but the odds are so low that I wouldn't put any money on him. By the way, I'll say one more thing which doesn't have absolutely anything to do with what I just said, but I'm curious about something. So as I said, when it comes to boxing, we don't only have to predict the outcome of the fights, but also is the rightful winner going to get cheated out of victory or not. I know that all the promoters are committing robberies in their main fighter's favor, or at least trying to commit them by having 1 or 2 or even 3 judges scoring it in their main fighter's favor, or even have the referee helping them out. But some of the examples of that kind that occurred in Eddie Hearn's Matchroom promoted fights are still quite fresh in my mind, so I'll have to keep it in my mind as Jessie Vargas fights Mikey Garcia, who just signed 1 fight deal with DAZN. Now the question is, what type of deal Jessie Vargas has exactly with Matchroom and how many fights are there left for him on that contract, in order to figure out if his promoter have any initiative to fix the scorecards in his favor in case the fight goes full 12 and Mikey Garcia deserves the victory. But in the case he's in a similar situation like Mikey, then I would be wrong with all this talk. Anyways, there may be the possibility of DAZN or Hearn looking to extend the relationship with Mikey Garcia as well. At the end, maybe everything goes without any malversations, but all I'm doing here is just thinking out loud, because nothing can surprise me anymore in boxing. Thank you for watching.